Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 139 for March 10th, 2015. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and this week's host of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burn1, the special guest coordinator of the show.
I'm Flutterguy317 and I'm the media manager, and this week I'll be the editor of the show.
And I'm Atmospark. You can hear me better now.
Oh my god, say what you do!
Any questions?
I mean, sure. Let's go with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got the four of us back for the first time in what I think is a month, which is quite spectacular.
Yay!
But before we start and talk about all of that, Bernd, we have a very special guest today, don't we?
We do. Today, we have a fabulous treat of an artist who's actually does a medium we've never really featured on the show before. So we have a fabulous plushie maker with us today, and also a fabulous fan of the show. So today joining us, we have Nazegoreng. And so thank you so much for joining us. It's been like, we've wanted to have you on the show forever now, I believe.
It's been way too long. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I'm really happy to be on the show. So thanks, guys.
Well, apparently you're really, really fabulous. So
I'm not going to deny that.
Use that word. Maybe I could use it one more time. You have fabulous hair.
Thank you.
What a fabulous introduction you did there, Bernd. I mean, just...
I noticed that I said it
fabulous.
twice, and then I was like, I don't say it again.
Yeah, you gotta go.
You can just call me fabulous instead of Nazegoreng.
Yeah,
we'll
like,
do.
can we just call you Fab? Like,
Yeah, instead of Naz, it's fab.
We
There's
know a
something
fab,
fabulous.
though.
we already know a Fab.
I like
Yeah.
to pick a buzzword when I do my introductions, like, oh, this is an awesome guest to the show, and they're super awesome.
No, you don't say.
We all have that
Bernd,
kind
you're
of thing.
blowing my mind. So, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, including
Yes.
Joel's cat.
I got a cat.
But first of all, Joel, your audio sounds apparently so much better. You know, to be fair, before we talk about that, it could just sound amazing in Skype and then like be completely garbled mess in Audacity. But
doesn't
we're
look like it.
assuming that your audio has gotten better because you bought a new microphone.
I did buy a new microphone.
And if
So
it's
it sounds
not,
good.
if it's not better, we can post-produce it so that you sound like really, really sexy.
James L.
You're
You're like
Brilliant.
Tazon
Yeah.
Bay.
Like your voice sounds just super fabulous, Joel. Like I've always just had this grudge against your mic, and it's just like now you sound so good. Like
Now-
can you
now
just
you-
give us like a little sweet taste of a sensual voice into the mic for us? Can you do that?
I don't know if I can do a sensual voice.
It's close enough.
Smooth. I like it.
Kind of between creepy and sensual.
Now
So
now you
Ted,
have a
can
grudge
you
against
take-
Maxis because
Go
he's
ahead.
got the same mic.
Look,
It's true.
Yeah,
Look.
we need to get you a better mic now.
Look, I am all of your senseis. I'm your senpai. Okay. So we all know that I'm not the best karate master out there. But I taught you everything you know, young Padawans. That's like 4 references.
I'm lost.
Harrison Ford crashed a plane this week.
I know.
Sorry, no, we're not pop culture here.
There was
All
also
right,
a
so-
Delta plane that crashed in LaGuardia Airport.
Don't tell me that. Like I'm just booked a plane on Delta.
Oh, sorry.
Was Harrison Ford on it?
All right.
Oh, no.
So, speaking of different things, Ted, you're back this week. You're back from Bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
Barbados.
You're back, Thanos. How was the thing?
It was amazing. I was there on vacation. We saw a lot of the island. Got to relax quite a bit. Enjoyed the nice sunny weather. It was 28 degrees
It's
every
always
single
28
day.
degrees in Barbados, Ted.
Yeah. It was fantastic. And then
Seriously,
I come home.
no matter what day of the year,
Yeah.
go and Google Bridgetown, Barbados, which is like the capital of Barbados.
Yep.
And no matter what, it will always be in between 28 and 31. And if it isn't, then there's some sort of natural disaster happening.
It
And
was
that's-
it was 26 one day, and
Oh, no.
we thought like it was crazy.
like that might be the coldest Barbados has ever been.
Yeah.
For our non-foreign viewers, that is Celsius, by the way.
It was 40 degrees here yesterday.
It was disgusting
Yeah, that is
yesterday.
Celsius, true.
I nearly died.
It was
True
awful
story.
yesterday.
Wow.
Because it was so hot.
It was
Sorry.
so hot.
I'm jealous. The wind hurts my face when I step outside.
Yeah. So that was the tough part. Was coming back home to like negative 11-degree weather
To a
and-
country that actively harms your face.
Yes. I got outside the airplane or outside the airport and like breathed in, and all of a sudden like my lungs just hurt from the cold.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
God, I would have given anything for that yesterday.
Yeah.
You want to swap?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So, in addition, we have a new member of the Cutie Art Crusader family
Mm-hmm.
that Joel has recently adopted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a kid. You didn't have a kid.
You just heard it.
Let's just get that out of the way quickly. Just to make sure. Tell us about your kitty!
Kitty!
He's the most annoying thing I've ever known. He just fell off the thing. He's 11 weeks old, and he talks more than any other cat I've ever known, and he bites and scratches.
Well, I mean, that is a cat, so the two of those
What kind
three
of kitty
things
is it?
didn't surprise me.
You'll probably hear it's a tabby with white.
Yeah, I could hear it.
You'll hear it like all through the episode because it doesn't stop talking.
So here's a new lesson for you, Joel. You used to have my headset, which was a headset which had a microphone that no matter which way you turned,
Omnidirectional.
it didn't matter because the mic would move with you. Now you have a microphone that doesn't do that. So as you turn your head, your audio goes.
Yeah, you gotta talk into the mic. It doesn't
So what
sound
we're gonna
very
do-
good.
So
Yeah,
you've
it's
got to
true.
talk
Mic.
into the microphone.
It's hanging in front of my face.
Yeah.
You'd have to move the microphone in order to.
Don't
talk
do
away
that though.
from it.
Maybe I can strap this thing to my
Because
face.
you have a condenser mic, and if you move it or shake it, it'll go wonky. It's loud.
Yeah.
Oh my
so
god. You should get like a mic stand hat or helmet or whatever.
it's like one of those beer hats,
Yeah.
except with a microphone.
Yeah. And I mean, you
I
can put
could
beer
make
in
one- I
it
could make
too.
this work.
Like it's like a really, really big microphone.
You could just get a bunch of duct tape and just tape it to the side of your face.
Oh god.
It's true. So Joel, make sure to send Ted pictures of your kitties.
Yes.
Kitty.
And
I
of
only
your
have one, but
microphone
yes, I will.
hat.
I want to picture your kitty.
I think the funniest thing was that, Silver was so excited about getting a cat, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be getting a cat," and then like less than 24 hours later, both of you were like, "I hate this cat. This cat is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Like it sucks."
That's funny.
How'd you choose this particular cat?
It was in the cage where they kept these. There were like 4 of them in there, but like as
Oh,
a
yeah, the
like,
cat
not a
cage.
cage. Yeah, not a big cage. It was like sorry, not a small cage. It was a big cage, and they had like
Yeah.
it's from the Armour League, so like the ASPCA in the States. It's like a
Okay.
but they had a couple of them in there, and this is the only one that sort of came up to us and started like loving us straight away. The other ones are really, really
Oh,
shy.
see, there was your mistake right there.
Yeah, you got the outgoing one, which means it's also the loud one.
Love me. Wow.
You've got Burned the cat. Yeah, you do have Burned the cat. It doesn't stop talking.
Fair.
Come on, why is that insulting? We've said that like 50 times for Burned, and now all of a sudden it's
I
like,
just don't
"Ooh,
take
poor
criticism well. I just like talking. I just
Well,
like
get used to it.
meowing.
You'll get it all your life.
Burned." Oh my goodness. All right. Well, anyways, you'll have to send some pictures of the cat so people can see. It's a
Yes.
kitty.
It's adorable.
Its name is Syrinx.
Spelled with 2 Y's, so it's
No,
kind
one
of
Y.
like a.
It's Syrinx.
Like
Is it?
Like Sir Syrinx. Yeah.
Is that cat a girl or boy?
It's a boy.
Okay, that was a joke, but okay.
I get it.
Anyways,
Inside jokes, yay.
the very last piece on our talking points before we get around to not ignoring Naz anymore, is that the most important piece of news this week, I say as I flail in my chair, is that My Little Pony, the show that, like, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, like, it's pretty obscure, but it's got some pretty good reviews that we haven't seen in, like, forever, is actually coming back for season 5 starting on April 4th.
Oh,
It's
my
been 11
goodness.
months.
How far
So-
we've
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
So it's been 11 months, and I did a little bit of calculation here, and so the Cutie Art Crusaders has been running for not quite 3 years. It'll be 3 years at the beginning of July. So, July is how many months away? March, April, May, June. So it's about 4 months away. So I did some calculation, and we've been running for almost 3 years, so 3 years minus 4 months, and the hiatus between season 4 and season 5 was 11 months. So the hiatus in between the last 2 seasons has been a third of the time that we've done this show.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'm so glad that it's coming back because this hiatus has been, so awful.
Naz, you watched the trailers and stuff for it already, right?
Yeah. I've watched everything that has come out.
Are you excited for season 5?
Oh yeah, I'm really excited for it. Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be good. I also watched the trailers.
The trailers look
You
pretty
traitor.
epic. It seemed unnecessarily epic for like a pony show.
La
Dude,
la la la.
there is no such thing as... And
Are you just gonna finish that sentence, or are we just gonna let it hang?
no, we're just
All
going to
right,
let it hang.
Cool. Awesome. All right, so that's everything we need to talk about. I mean, there's not much else to talk about. Season 5 is coming soon. We will have our spoiler casts as usual. Now, we'll probably, because we have our own YouTube channel, we'll probably separate them out into different videos, which will be nice for you guys. So yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so, Naz, thank you for very patiently sitting around and waiting while we blathered on about
And
stupid
listen to us
things.
talk about nothing.
It's true.
That's okay.
I could listen to you talk like all day now, Joel.
Yeah, Joel, seriously, like...
The Joel Show.
it's very... Did you put, like, bass boost on that or something? Like,
Bass boost.
that's
No,
what it
this
sounds
is my
like.
regular voice.
Your voice
Yeah,
is so
okay.
like
I've seen you in person. That's not your
the
regular
range
voice.
on
No,
this
when-
condenser mic though is so much deeper, so like you can catch the bass in your deep manly voice. Like,
Yeah.
Ooh.
I like the fact that I
Oh
tried to transition to
my.
Naz and you immediately went to Joel. I mean, I know
I'm
they're
sorry,
on the same
Joel started
country,
talking
but
again.
content,
We
whatever.
can't keep concentrating on other things.
Hi, Naz. How are you doing today? Let's start with that question. How are you doing
I'm
today?
good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yay.
So
Fabulous.
you probably know the procedure by now, but in case people don't know who you are or what you do, please introduce yourself and tell the audience what exactly you do and why we're having you on the show.
Because I'm fabulous.
Obviously.
I'm Nazegoreng, or Naz for short. I'm a freelance plushie maker, so most people would know me from making plush ponies. But I do make all different sorts of plushies. But that's who I am, so yeah.
Cool.
So you are a plushie?
Yeah. I'm a
Yeah,
plushie horse.
just like other people are like watercolors because they make watercolors.
Yeah.
You are what you make, after all.
I wouldn't complain.
That's true. That's probably like the best deal.
I've always wanted to be a giant stuffed horse. Wondering
Well
why.
burned. We're in the future, so there's a lot of things that we can make.
They
we
said
can
I
make
could
come
become
true.
anything.
So
So
I
you
became
became
a
a stuffed
giant
horse.
stuffed horse. So, you know, it's interesting for us to have someone like you on the show because, you know, we are kind of visual art critique people.
Yeah.
You know, we're critics of visual art, and plushie making is something that is kind of difficult to critique from the same kind of area because while it is a very artistic endeavor, it's got a lot of differences.
It's a totally different
And,
format to what you guys are used to doing, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we're going to use this opportunity to today is to learn more about an area that we don't really know about. Because when we first started the Cutie Art Crusaders, a lot of the stuff that we did was kind of learning as we went.
Yeah.
And recently it's been more about what we've learned and displaying that knowledge. But we have the opportunity today to talk to you. So, you know, feel free to teach us about stuff and just assume that we know absolutely nothing about plushies because
Assume.
honestly, I know nothing about plushies.
I know that they're
other than
cute.
that they're soft and cuddly.
Yeah.
And I would like one.
Oh,
So-
I should, you know what? I'm gonna go grab a plushie. I'll be back. You guys keep talking.
I should grab mine too.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Everyone
I guess-
gather
I
around
guess
with their plushies.
I
It's
have mine
true,
next
it's
to me.
true.
I was prepared.
I have a
Everybody
headset
grab
mic
their
so I can actually
Nazegoreng
stand.
plushies. Wait, nobody else has
So
Oh,
so I guess let's start from the beginning. So how did you start out as an artist and as a plushie maker?
I was always interested in art, especially digital art, before I got into plushie making. I went and studied animation for 3 years at university, and pretty much in the first year of uni, I realised that I hated animation. I still liked drawing, but I hated like the physical aspect of animation. But I finished my degree, but while I was at uni, I got into pony because my uni degree started pretty much when I got into pony. So like 2011. I think it was, or around there. And I pretty much saw all these amazing plushies out there, and I wanted so many of them, but obviously they're not cheap. But I had such like an artistic background that I thought, I could try. I think I could do a pretty decent job if I tried to do this. So I slowly started, I bought a sewing machine, and I just, I tried sewing with felt and things like that, which didn't look very good. But yeah, eventually, I purchased all my machinery and things that I needed to make it look professional. And I started just making them as a hobby while I was at university, just for fun. And then that progressed on to taking commissions. And then by the time I was about to leave university and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, the commissions had gotten to a point where I thought, okay, maybe I can do this as a career sort of thing. So I did it part-time after leaving uni, and probably about 6 months after I left, I quit my other job. And I've been doing it full-time ever since, which is really, really awesome. So I make plushies for a living, which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that for now?
I've been taking commissions probably for about 2 years, and I've probably been running as a proper business for about 1 year. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. So you've kind of gotten
cool.
into the swing of things now.
Yeah, well, it's all legit now, and, I do all the all the bookkeeping side and all the boring side, but, yeah, so it runs as a proper business now.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you said, speaking of machines, what did you actually have to get to be able to do what you do?
You don't need a machine to make plushies, but you need machines to make professional looking plushies, if that makes sense. So you can hand sew a cute little plushie, but if you want yours to look like the amazing ones you see on DeviantArt, the first thing is getting just a sewing machine, just a regular sewing machine, because that cuts the amount of time that it takes you to make something by so much. Yeah.
In a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
It's almost like a machine would be necessary, because this hand stitching commissions would just be out of the
I know
question.
people that do it, but if you really want to get into it seriously, you do need a sewing machine, it's just your base. And they're not that expensive. You can get, in Australia at least, you can get a cheap one for about $200, $300. So,
No.
Yeah.
You bought a sewing machine, but did you also get an embroidery machine?
Yeah.
Embroidery machine for things like eyes?
Yeah, I didn't initially because they're extremely expensive here in Australia. I know you can get the machine that I have is probably more an entry level one. I paid about $1,800 for it here, and you can buy pretty much the same machine for $400 in the States. So
Wow.
yeah.
People who may not
Australia
know,
tax.
Yeah, for people who may not know the process of making plushies super finitely, can you explain to us a little bit about what machines you need, what you use them for, in the process, sewing machine for stitches, or what they're for, seams, and what an embroidery machine does, things like that?
The sewing, you can pretty much get away with just having a sewing machine if you want to put the effort in. The only thing that the embroidery machine makes it easier to do is your eyes and cutie marks and things like that. So you'll see on plushes, most of them, a lot of embroidered eyes and cutie marks and things like that. But you can get away with doing different techniques. There's applique, which is when you take different fabrics and cut them out and layer them on top of each other and then sew around the edges. So you can do that with a regular sewing machine. But if you want to, it just takes a lot longer. And if you want to do custom expressions, and I really like, doing up vectors of different eye expressions and things, and being really varied with the eyes that I do. So it's just easier, and it's just, it gives a really professional look. It's a lot easier, I would say, to do embroidery than it is to do applique, because applique is more manual, a more manual way of doing it. So there's a lot of room for error, I guess. So the embroidery machine I did purchase later on, and I also bought the embroidery software, which was quite expensive. But that's that I have Photoshop, and I'll vector my eye expressions, then bring them into this program, and then you're pretty much doing vector traces of your over your image sort of thing, and that gives the stitch pattern for the machine. and you plug it in, and then it'll stitch it on the fabric. So
the embroidery machine is a digital machine where you put in something that you create, and then it automatically stitches it for you, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So you need like there's cheap softwares and there's expensive softwares out there, like depending on how much you want to spend. But I've walked out and got a really professional one, which pretty much, like, the more you spend, the easier the software is to use and the better results you'll get. So the cheaper ones, you're going to get like missed stitches and like, you know, sometimes wonky things. So yeah,
needles, maybe.
Yeah, like there's a lot of factors that can like attribute to it being not perfect. But yeah, I was lucky that I could spend a bit more, and my software is really good, so it pretty much comes out exactly like the vectors I have on my computer, which is
tax write-offs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Before we go any further, I want to just bring up some art, because right now we haven't really brought up anything. So this is a piece of, it's a custom plush of Coco Pomel, and it's adorable. And yeah.
Well, I'm sure, Ted, as the editor,
yes,
you can flash certain things on the screen as we talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what I'm curious most about is kind of a high-level view of what the steps are exactly to making a plushie. You know, like, I'm sure there are many people out there who, similarly to you, say, well, I really want to start making my own. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I'm curious, like, what are the steps? You know, I hear things about patterns, and I hear things about, you know, sewing things together, but what really is the step-by-step process?
It's a lot more complicated than I guess people would see. Like, you just see a finished plushie, but you don't see, like, all the learning process and stuff behind it. So I'll link you guys to this. This is, like, just a meme I did, but it shows the progression of my pattern from when I very first started to now. So if you have a look at that, you can see, like, obviously the quality has gotten better, but the big differences in the pattern and sort of it's got a lot lankier and a lot more show accurate sort of thing. So making your pattern is probably the most important part, I would say, to making your plush, because that's what, you know, people are going to judge you on. So a lot of the time people will start off like there's patterns you can buy out there, like pre-made ones. I really recommend Valley Violet's pattern, which is a really good one. So I would recommend, if you're just starting out, go and just make a plush. Like I guess a pony would be good to start with, but just understand how the pieces work together and how to use your sewing machine, and then how to stuff and how to actually make the plushie in the first place. And then you can move on to making your own pattern. So you can either modify existing pattern, which a lot of people do, or I went the long way and I just started from scratch, so I had no idea what I was doing. I had some plushes that I owned, so I kind of looked at how they fit together. But pretty much you're just taking the long way. I just took the long way and did it by trial and error. So you can see, like, the Applejack that I made at the very start, she was one of the very first plushes I made, and I probably made maybe 30 test plushes before I actually made my first ones. So a lot of the quality of the plushes is from work done behind the scenes. Like, once you've got the pattern, it's easy enough to make the pony with it because it's already done. But yeah, there's a lot of hard work that goes into refining that pattern and testing that pattern that most people don't see. So going from the Applejack at the start to the Applejack at the end, there's probably been over 50 pattern tests that I've done just to change that from
and
what it is then.
Going through all the work to make and cut out and sew together a test pattern and see if it looks wonky and stuff like that.
And it's a lot of money with fabric too. Yeah. So
you just have a giant secret area just full of
just a room.
Horses. I just picture this horrible, this horror zone, this room of horrors, just full of all these misformed ponies.
Wow.
It's great. It's good though.
A lot of people
will
have
love
asked
that,
me,
sure.
like, can I buy your test ponies and stuff? Because I don't bother putting eyes and hair and stuff on them because that's like too much effort to do for a finished one. It's a waste of money. But most of the time it sounds horrible, but I harvest them for materials, so I'll just like cut them open.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll just like,
Science gone
Great.
too
The
far.
police are on their way, and
Yeah.
it sounds really morbid, but yeah, when you're making, like, say I'm doing a pattern revision, I might do, like, at the moment I'll probably do 5 or 10 like tests before I like will update my pattern. But when you're like you're not going to use them, so I may as well take like the stuffing and everything out of them and reuse all of that. And people have asked if they can buy my pattern test, but the thing is, it makes it very easy for people. If someone wanted to steal my pattern, which is obviously like a real worry sometimes, it would be really easy for them to just purchase like one of those tests and just rip it open. So I like to think if I don't release them, people aren't going to buy like a fully finished, like I would hope that they wouldn't buy a fully finished plush at full cost. Yeah. And rip it open, sort of thing. Right. But yeah, most of them I just take all the stuffing out of and bin the fabric or reuse like bits of the fabric, sort of thing. So
you should get like an arsenic pill and like put it inside the plushies.
Yeah.
So it opens them, like comes out.
excuse me,
So the police will be showing up at your
I
house.
thought about it before.
would you like to say that again for the microphone?
Wow.
For the record,
Who says I
please.
haven't done that?
No.
Yeah.
An arsenic pill.
Jeez.
Wow.
Sometimes you
If
gotta do
someone
what
did
it takes.
steal my pattern, they would be deserving of that. So
Yeah, because for you, that's
that's my business.
that's your business,
Mm.
like people go to you for your pattern.
Exactly.
Like part of it is for your quality,
Yeah,
your dedication and your time towards it, but part of it too is the pattern that you've spent so long kind of developing
Big
and
time.
honing in order to make the best looking plushies for people.
Because that's like such a huge part of it, and that's just, it's your research and development, I guess, into your future plushies, I guess. So yeah, it's really important to me because that pattern is what makes people like, obviously, like I have the like quality embroidery and I try and do a good job on like all the hair and accessories and stuff. But the pattern is pretty much what people are coming to me for because they've seen the pattern and they like the pattern. So your pattern's what's going to get you recognised and what's going to set you apart from other people. So you really have to choose, like when you start out making your first patterns, what do I want it to look like? When I started out, I sort of had inspirations of like different plushie makers. I'd be like, I want to have my nose look like that, or I want to have like their rump look like that, or the hooves look like that, sort of thing. And you kind of come into your own style with your pattern, and that sets you apart from everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some of the materials that you use? I mean, you talked about stuffing and you talked about everything like that.
Yeah.
But what's the actual stuff you use?
The actual fabric that I use for all the ponies is called minky. So it's kind of like a very, very, very short fur. So it's
Such a cute name for a fabric.
Yeah, it is really cute. But that comes in, I think it's over 100 colours now, which is pretty good. But if you've actually felt like a quality minky plush, like the feeling is amazing. Like it's the softest thing I could possibly imagine. So yeah, that's what I use for most of my plushes, unless I'm doing something special, like unless I'm making like Luna's mane or something where I'm going to use like a sparkly fabric or something like that. But yeah, that's like 99% of what I use is minky fabric. So most of the time I import that from overseas because unfortunately Australia doesn't really have a good supplier for it. So that's a part of, it's expensive fabric. So that's what goes into the price as well. So I have to import that all from the UK most of the time.
I had to reach over and feel my plushies and like see the different types of minky.
Yeah, there's definitely different qualities. Like I buy Shannon minky, which is the highest quality and has the most colours, but there's also like lower grades of minky as well that you can get from different manufacturers. So there's definitely a
You can
difference.
definitely feel the difference.
Yeah.
And well, like I have one plushie that feels the minky's very tough. The bragging, the White Diamonds plushie I have here, it's like a very like tough minky that feels thicker.
Yeah.
But then the little cute Rainbow Dash I have, it's very like thin and the
Yeah.
size is a little bit shorter.
Yeah. So, and it really makes a difference, like, if you compare, like, a plush that you would go buy, like a Chinese-made plush in a shop, like, it's not even comparable. Like, it's just so sublimely soft, like, it's gorgeous.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
So now, are all your ponies just made of basically like stitched together minky, or is there
Pretty
different
much,
types of fabric? Like, do you use like strengthening fabric or something, like behind eyes and stuff like that? Or?
I use, it's called a stabilizer. So when you do your embroidery, the embroidery machine has like a hoop that you hook onto the machine. And what you do is you hoop stabilizer, which is kind of, think of it like somewhere between a paper cardboard feeling and a fabric. It's kind of like a woveny kind of feel. But anyway, you hoop that, and that is the base of what I usually use. I use spray adhesive and then attach the minky to that unsewn. So you have to do all your embroidery before the pieces are sewn together. And then the stabilizer gives the thread something to hold on to, so it gives it like a framework. Otherwise, because the minky is so soft, it would just pierce through and it goes all wonky. So the stabilizer kind of provides a solid backing for it to keep it in shape. So you would do all your embroidery, and then you would cut that out. You'd cut the stabilizer off the back, and that would be on the inside, so you're not really going to notice it once you've sewn it all together. But pretty much it's just straight stitch on a sewing machine using standard sewing machine thread for actually sewing them together, so there's nothing really special there. I do the 3D ears and the flat hooves, and I use hard plastic for that. So that's, I suppose, another material that I use in mine, and that just gives it a solid surface. So, like with the hooves,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
With the hooves, you can see on my older plushes, they have like the rounded bottoms, and then when I started using the plastic, it gives the hoof obviously like a flat base, because the
Very rigid. I did notice that.
Yeah, the stuffing can't poof out down the bottom because it has to push against the hard plastic. So yeah, that's another thing I use.
Okay.
And I also use.
Up.
Yeah, they stand up a lot better as well. And I also use poly pellets, which are just like a little plastic, like lots and lots of beads. And I put them in the bottom of most of the hooves because they're just a weight, because the heads of the ponies are probably a third of the height of the whole pony, so they're pretty heavy when you compare it to the body. So
and
a lot of
you
the
get
time,
hair on there too.
Yeah, so some of them can be extremely front heavy. So you use those beads to sort of counterbalance all that heavy hair
fishing
at the
weights
front.
in the feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you go to the extremes where you got things like that.
What's this?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Of course you'd bring up yours.
So with that one, there's actually like stones, like pebble, like in the body and in the tail. So Joel would have felt that. Like, it's pretty heavy for how big it is.
It feels like it's made of concrete.
So you're saying if you ever threw that pinkie pie at someone, it would hurt?
Yeah, probably. You don't do that. So
like
that was pretty much my goal with the chibis, was like, how big can I get the head and still get it to stand up? So the only way to get that massive head, and that head, it doesn't even look that big in the pictures. It's so much bigger in real life. It's so heavy. There's no way it would stand up unless I had like a heavy weight, like counterbalancing that. So, yeah.
Right.
Something else I was really curious about is, so you're doing all this straight stitching on a sewing machine and stuff, but you don't see the stitching on the outside of the plushie. It's obviously on the inside. How does that work? Do you make the entire horse inside out, or what's
everything
what's
is
the technique
made
behind that?
inside out. And then by the end, you sort of, the head and the body are made separately, so they both have openings where they connect, like on a finished plushie. So you sew it inside out, and I'll usually use threads that are pretty close to the colour of the actual pony. So if I'm making a black pony, I'll use black thread, or if I'm making like Coco Pomel, I used a white thread, which is pretty close. So obviously you wouldn't use like a fluoro pink thread on a white pony or something like that. Yeah. So it's just common sense that way. And you turn them inside out and stuff them. And another thing I can do, because you can see the seams on the finished pony, but I actually get a cat hair brush and just brush, because all the fur, the tiny like nap of the fur on the minky fabric gets stuck into the seams, and that's where you see those hard seam lines. So if you get a little brush and tease those little bits of fur out of the seams, that's what gives you like the really like hard to see seams. So you look at Coco, and I've brushed all the seams in her legs and
that's
face.
quality right there. That's like fine attention to detail.
Yeah.
Your pony will come pre-brushed.
Yeah. So that's
how
one
do you
way
handle-
to do it. Yeah.
How do you handle seams that you actually want to see, like mouths and nostrils and stuff?
They're done with thread, so it's not sewn on with a machine. They're called doll needles, and they're probably I have one that's about 10 inches long. Like, they're pretty scary looking big needles. Yeah.
Wow.
I ran them with my fingers before by accident. It's really horrible. Yeah.
So wait, is this an extraordinarily long needle to like push through the entire pony?
So you push through the entire pony. So with the I use that for the mouth and the nose. So obviously it's not going like to the back of the head or anything. It's just going from like one side of the mouth to the other side. And I just get like a coloured embroidery thread that matches the colour of the smile of the pony. So like Coco Pomelo, I use like a gold sort of colour. And you're just pretty much using that big needle to go through the head and then bring the thread around the front as like a decorative sort of stitch. So that's how I do the mouths and the nose. And you can also use those needles if you look at one of the recent rarities that I just made. I wanted their eyes to look even better from the front, and especially actually on the stallions that I've just made. The only way to get them to look really good from the front, I found, was to use those doll needles and get a really strong thread, and it's called thread sculpting. And what you do is you get the strong thread on that, and you pretty much go from like eye socket to eye socket all the way up and down the eye, and it sort of pulls them together at the front. So if you look at that stallion that I've done, you can sort of see on the very right picture how the eye sort of pulls towards the front. You can see how it's pulled in, and that gives it that good front look as well. So that's another way that I use those
so that's
those
actually
needles.
thread inside of his head, pulling both sides of his head closer together.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's how that magic works.
Yeah,
There's these crazy like plushy tricks. Like you never understand how the inside of this stuffed thing works, right?
There's so much that goes into it, and like I'm pretty obsessive with, like, I love researching things, so plushies are really good for that because there's so many different things that you can learn. And people ask, can you teach me? And it's like YouTube is your teacher pretty much, and blogs and things are your teacher. So go out there and just, when I started, I so obsessively researched, like I just enjoyed doing it anyway. But yeah, I would research embroidery and research like things like making patches like for jackets and things, and research vectoring and research so many things. Like I went into researching a lot about fursuit making, so I could do like resin eyes and like claws and things like that. And then I researched like doing LED lights and things like that. And so there's like a never ending sort of amount of things. Like there's so many different disciplines that you can apply to plushie making, because especially with ponies, like the standard has just gotten better and better and better since like everyone started, obviously. And then you're sort of competing with everyone else, so you're sort of researching to see what can give you the edge, or what can make your plushies better, what can give them something, cool to look at, sort of thing.
Yeah, push you ahead of the competition. And speaking of cool techniques, you mentioned like LED lights and research, so we'll throw one on the screen here. It's a smog plush you did where he physically glows, and like that's pretty crazy.
That nearly
I remember
killed
this
me,
one
that plushie.
really blew me away when you posted
what? Killed you?
That was like one of the only plushies I've ever made where I had like a breakdown. I was just like, this is so hard. Have I attempted something that is like outside my ability? Like it just melted my mind. But like I was really happy by the end. But yeah, it just took me weeks of like slowly working on it and just be like, keep going, you can do this, sort of thing.
It It turned out super, super fantastic.
And I was really happy because that was like my daily deviation I got for that one. And I wanted one for so long. And I tried to make my plush, like my pony is really good. And unfortunately, the artisan section of, like the mods of the artisan section on DeviantArt don't like to give daily deviations to pony stuff. So, yeah, that was the thing that eventually got that for me. So I was really, really happy with that. But that was really cool. Like, a lot of the fursuit research went into that. So I don't know if you can see, but like all the teeth and gums inside the mouth are like hand sculpted out of like polymer clay, and it's got resin casted eyes with like embedded LEDs and stuff. So all that is learnt from the fursuit like tutorials.
Yeah, you must have had to look into some like basic circuitry and stuff for the LED lights, huh?
Yeah, like I was talking to Joel about it, and he's just like, "Oh, it's so easy," but I find it really hard. Like, for me, it was just like I don't get, like, it didn't naturally come to me, like all the like different resistors and all that sort of thing. Yeah, well, so I was
Joel's
lucky.
an electrician, so
but I was really lucky to have some really nice techie friends that sort of guided me through the process and learning how to do that.
So now, does he have like a little exposed scale where you can like take the batteries in and out?
It's the battery pack. There's 2 battery packs because I'm not intelligent enough to get it all hooked up to one. So there's one behind all the horns of his head. So it's kind of hidden behind there. So that's all the LEDs for the mouth and the eyes. And then all the chest LEDs are mounted onto like a panel that are slipped, like you can see it under his neck. And at the base of that, there's like a slip of like Velcro underneath like one of the scales, and you lift it up and the battery pack is pushed in there. So that's not something I like to work with really often, because it's just, even now I know what I'm doing, it's still, I find it quite difficult. So I feel
like that's fun and flavorful for a smog, to have like an exposed compartment where you can like get inside of them. And there's some old cartoon or show where like they like went inside, opened up this dragon, like went inside and like saw his heart or something. I forget what that was.
Dragonheart.
You should
was it called Dragonheart legitimately?
Dragonheart.
probably.
I mean, it could be. It sounds like an apt
No, that
name.
actually sounds right, but that was some cool stuff.
I've seen it. I know what you're talking about.
That was a cartoon or movie. Yeah.
You should put a little arrow in there, like the black arrow that
Does the smog come with an arrow?
You can't really see it in the pictures because it was kind of subtle with the airbrushing, but I did make a black scale, like a section totally black, because I was like,
nice. So
I like it.
So with this plushie, does he have some sort of skeleton inside?
Yeah, that was probably the hardest part that drove me absolutely insane, and something I need to get a bit better at. But I originally was like, because this thing is huge, like it's probably over 3 foot tall, so it's pretty massive.
Oh, wow.
And the weight of the body is pretty huge. So I was like, I'll just use, because I knew that I would have him sort of stand, like his tail would be back and his feet would be on the ground, and then he would have like 2 arms coming forward to sort of support the front weight. And I thought, I'll just put wire, like heavy gauge wire in his wings, and that will hold it. And the amount, like, I'm like a small person, and like the strength it took me to like bend all this heavy gauge wire, and then I put it in and he just fell over like it was nothing. So I was like getting like pliers and then like vice grips and stuff like that, and like bending this wire, and it was just not working. And eventually I worked out that I could use PVC pipe, which was a lot stronger than wire. So there's PVC pipe going through his back, down his arms, and like resting on the ground. And that was the only thing that I could find that was strong enough at the time to get to support all that weight.
Very cool.
So sometimes like engineering comes into it a little bit, like especially with the massive plushies.
That's why this alternate art form is so cool, because we've always done, just flat 2D artwork on the show and stuff, and we've never looked at plushies or crafts, and we've always gotten asked like, oh, like you should feature plushies or do whatever. So it's why it's so awesome to have you here and like talk about this kind of stuff, because doing like a full 3D round, which is the technical art term, to sculpt like sculpture, basically a stuffed cloth sculpture like this.
That's pretty
and all
much
the
what
work
they
that
are,
goes,
really.
goes into it. It's crazy. It's another form of just engineering that takes, you know, an art a step further other than just designing something, you know, on a screen or in a 2D medium.
And there's so many tools that I have that you wouldn't like associate with plushie making. Like I have all soldering equipment and like vice grips and like pliers and things like that. And with Smorg, like I've used a soldering iron to like burn like scars into the Minky, so I'd like use that as well. And I just have
the
like
unruly plushies, right?
But I have all these tools that you would sort of expect to see in like, you know, like a shed or something that I actually have to use for the plushies. So yeah.
This plushie isn't respecting my authority. Gotta go get my strips.
You mentioned on this I think I had a bug.
Try it again.
Words.
Okay.
Go on.
I was going to say, you mentioned all the airbrushing that you did on that Smog plushie, and then immediately the cadence one, the crystal cadence that came to mind, because I've seen this one in person, and it's impressive.
It's one of my favourite, because I don't keep a lot of the plushies that I make, and I actually make cadence for myself. So she's one of my favourite plushies that I've actually gotten to keep in person. So I really, like, I did the original Crystal Rarity a very long time ago, and that was, you know, sort of when I very first got my airbrush, and I wanted to do an updated Crystal Pony because I hadn't done one in so long, and I knew that my technique would have gotten a lot better since I first did it. So I decided, okay, I'm going to make cadence. So she was a good candidate for that. So it's just really time consuming, and finding out, you know, what paints to use and what stencils to use. And I have like a hair dryer that I use because you have to dry them pretty quickly after you airbrush them. But yeah, it would have taken a whole day of just airbrushing all these little facets on her to get that effect. So, and with Smorg as well, you can see I made like a scale template, and then I just went along his whole body, and then just did like big scales, small scales, and all that sort of thing. So that's a really cool effect to be able to do.
So not only are you making these things, you're also painting them.
Yeah. So there's so many like different, as I said, so many different things you can apply to it. So that's another thing that I've gone and researched is like, I love watching like custom car paint jobs, like when they do really cool like flames and like stenciling and stuff like that. So that was something I'd watched in the past anyway, because I just find it really interesting to watch them like stencil and paint all these cool things. And I was then watching tutorials, and I was like, oh, I could use that with plushes. I could buy an airbrush, and if I can find the right paint, then I can use stencils to do like gradients and effects and stuff on them. So that was how that started.
Does the paint soak into the fabric? Is it still soft?
It's still soft. The hard thing about airbrushing is I try to keep mine super, super soft, so I'm really strict with how much paint I will use and what kind of paint I use. So that's sort of like my own like secret recipe sort of thing, because it takes a long time to sort of, you know, get your technique down and use the right type of paint and the right techniques. So all my airbrush plushies I try and keep really soft, but a lot of people out there you see will just slather paint on, and you can see it gets kind of crispy. So there is a potential to ruin the plush, like the softness of the plush, with airbrushing. So I guess it just depends on the artist and how strict they're being with their quality control and how much they care about the plush still being soft. But I do try and keep mine super soft,
Well, one thing that makes your gallery extremely, extremely unique, especially for a plushie artist, is that you tackle very, very complex OCs and like
that's what I've become known
hair
from,
designs,
sort of
color designs, and I mean, it's incredible. Like I believe Max, you had a pony that you wanted to bring up. Well, that is like a great example for that.
I've been sitting here this entire time, and like I'll open my mouth, and someone will say what I'm about to say, and I just like, close my mouth.
That's what it's like for me
I
usually.
guess someone else is bringing it up. So may I talk about it?
Yeah.
So it's hilarious because Joel actually picked the exact one I want to talk about, and again, Byrne picked this one. So a couple episodes ago, as you've heard, Naz, I kind of went on a big ramble about how I really enjoyed two of the plushies that you happened to make.
I felt really loved.
Coffee Bean and Blazing Gear were two plushies that I looked at in particular.
Yeah.
And, I thought were some of the best plushies that I've ever seen, and a lot of that comes in with the airbrushing thing. And the thing that I find really amazing about your gallery in particular is, as Bernd was mentioning, you kind of take on these interesting and unique OCs.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when we see OCs, they can be over the top or too many accessories or all this crazy stuff that's going on. And one of the things that you kind of have to consider is, like if you, like one of the things you have to consider when you're making an OC is if you want something physical of it,
definitely.
maybe make it easy. But the thing is, you seem to take on all of these difficult ones that it's not just that people come to you for the top quality stuff, but also because you have the highest skill and will be able to do the widest range of things. Like, for example, in these ones, the individual stuff on the hooves, like the blue
like
kind of
tattoo,
snaky,
I think it's
fiery
meant to be.
stuff,
Yeah.
and the two different types in both of these OCs, you've got kind of like the fiery gradient in Blazing Gear, but also this kind of like splotchier,
like a galaxy
spray
kind of,
painty aspect in Coffee Bean.
Yeah. That's like something I really enjoy, is doing like crazy OCs. Like, as much as it can give you a headache sometimes, like I really enjoyed making things that other people would probably hesitate to make. I find that really rewarding. So I think a lot of people come to me because they know that I'm not going to be like, okay, that OC is too hard. So I will tackle a lot of them. And I really enjoy making OCs like in different styles. Like Fox and Shadow has such an awesome style, like especially like with his colouring. And I really was like, okay, I'm going to try and like imitate this on this plush. So that's how that sort of came about. So I really like, it's almost like you're not collaborating with the artist, but you're taking like their style, their digital style, which they use like digital brushes and different means to get, and then I have to translate that into my medium and think, okay, how can I recreate this 2D effect in a 3D effect sort of thing.
Right. There's a couple more, as I was going through your gallery, there's more and more examples of really interesting plushies, some stuff that again you'd never guess would be able to actually made into a plushie, but things like I looked at Slipstream as an example. The one that Joel linked there, Snowspell.
The one based
very
on Elsa.
complex hair and interesting things on the Minky, and
I would
so
never make that Snowspell one ever again. It was just so difficult.
I can imagine.
Because the thing is, with airbrushing, at least I haven't found a way to airbrush light colours on dark fabric, because you're the paint is like tinting the fabric. So when people come to me with ponies, because a lot of people have ponies with white gradients on their legs and it looks really cute, but then it's like you don't realise that I can't airbrush white onto a coloured fabric. So with Snowspell, she was like, can you do it? And I was a bit over ambitious, and I was like, okay, I'm going to reverse like the airbrushing process. So instead of airbrushing the white onto a blue pony, I airbrushed the blue onto a white pony, which turned out to be like a huge pain. It took me like literally from when the sun came up, and like by the time the sun was setting, I was like still not finished. So it was just trying to keep it soft and like having to do all these layers of paint, like, and I had different stencils, like you can see on the hooves, like I use a lot of masking tape stencils, so I had like the fluffies, like they were all stenciled, and then I had like all these tiny little, I don't know if you can see on the legs, but they're little like snowflake, they were like the little glitter things that you get like with like different patterns on them, so they were little like snowflake glitter things that I like pinned to the legs. So like eventually by the end when I pulled it all off, it looked like that. But yeah, it was a huge pain to do, but it looked amazing in the end. I was really happy with it. So yeah.
Wow. I think it's really cool that I could take a look at that, and it totally blew me away when you said that, when you said it was reversed, because I never even would have thought of that, because it looks very natural. It looks like, oh yeah, you just took this blue minky and then you spray painted white over it.
I wish that I could have done that.
That's really
Yeah.
quite amazing.
Yeah.
So, we are getting up on time, which is
Damn.
quite spectacular because I think all of us could probably sit around and talk for an hour
We
extra.
still
but
have
that
so much
just
more we
means-
could talk about.
There's
That-
so
that-
many more
that-
OC plushies.
That
Plus-
obviously means that we're going to have you come
Yeah.
on again sometime
We
soon.
can do like a craft
we'll
episode
have
or
to
something.
organize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, oftentimes we mention we want artists back in the show, and we always do, but this one in particular, I think we'll definitely have to have you on sometime soon
What
again. But
we should do is like have a normal CAC episode, right? But have the theme be plushies,
Yeah.
and then we'll have you join us,
Just
and
have
you
you
can give
talk
us some
about
of your
that.
favorite picks
Yeah,
of artists you're
definitely.
jealous of.
Yeah.
well, we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot. What we've learned today, I mentioned we would be learning stuff today. I think what we learned today is that there is kind of a lot more than meets the eye here,
Definitely.
and I'm sure we would love to kind of continue to explore that with you as we go along. But before we kind of wrap up, because we got to do our plugs and all that kind of jazz, just wanted to ask a couple more questions for you, specifically for the audience, in case they're interested. So you do commissions, you do commission work for a living now. So if someone was interested in commissioning you, how would they go about doing so?
Pretty much what I do is I sort of have a waiting list format at the moment, but I only take up to 30 commissions at a time, because if I just let it go all the time, I would never get to the end, if you know what I mean. So I like to have a goal in mind.
Right.
So what I do is when I do open commissions, I'll accept about 30 spots, and then I split that into 3. So the first 10 plushies, everyone will pay up front for their plush, and then the other groups are like a waiting list sort of thing. So that holds your spot, but you don't actually have to pay until I start that batch of plushies. So at the moment, I'm just transitioning to the second batch out of 30. So I can usually make 2 to 4 plushies a week. So if that gives anyone an idea of how long it'll take me to be open again. But you can just check out my DeviantArt page, which has links to my prices and my commission policy and how much, where I'm up to in my commission list sort of thing. So you can check that out there. And then everyone's like free to send me, like I'm always open for quotes. So if you want to save up for a plushie, you can always contact me like on any of my social media pages or DeviantArt or whatever you have, and I can give you a price. So yeah, that's pretty much how they can contact me. I'll probably be finishing the rest of the commissions in a couple of months, maximum, I reckon. And then I actually want to go on to take maybe a couple of weeks off for myself to work on personal projects, because I'm really wanting to make my first life-size pony. So people can look out for that.
Wow.
But I will be opening commissions sort of in that time when I'm making that as well. Yeah.
Cool. So, if people want to find you online, I know some artists have things like Etsy. You seem to house stuff through your DeviantArt, but if, not only that, but is there any other place that people can find you?
On DeviantArt, I'm just nazegoreng.deviantart.com, so you can find me there, and that's where I'm on the most. But I do check my other pages. So my Facebook is facebook.com/nazegorengcrafts, and Tumblr is nazegoreng.tumblr.com, and Twitter is twitter.com/nazegoreng. So you can contact me on any of those, and you'll be able to find me on there.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure to have
Thank
you
you.
on. As I was mentioning, we're obviously we've learned a lot today, and there's so much more to explore. So we'll have to have you on again very soon. And that's not one of those like empty promises where we're like, we'll totally have you on again, and then like White Diamonds, like 2 years passes, and then we
I'll just be
finally have you on again.
crying
Like, I
and
think
feel all
we'll
abandoned.
definitely,
Promise me that
we'll
call.
definitely
Next time it'll cost you.
I'll give you your
I was
pleasure
just saying,
later.
so now we've reached the end of the show here. So as agreed, we will now give you our addresses.
If you want this episode to air, the payment better come through.
Holding them hostage.
That's right, I've got one. That's enough for all of us.
Yeah.
We have a cute cat here, and we're
You
holding
guys
hostage.
can, I'll make you a deal. If you
Please
fly
take
me
it.
over to BronyCon, I will make you each a plush of your choice.
Wow,
That's
about
Yeah,
the same
probably
price.
about
How
the
much
same.
would it? We'll have to get quotes from you. How much it would be to get plushies from you, and then we'll see how much it would be
I'll
to
see
fly
if
you
I
over,
wanna
and
tell
we'll
the truth.
contemplate the cost.
I'll give you
Yeah.
friends rates. So
Ooh.
Fancy. All right. So, anyways, again, thank you for coming on, but we do need to move on to our plugs and wrap up the show. So, Joel, now
Yeah.
that the one Australian has done her plugs, feel free to do your plugs.
Ooh, in your sexy radio announcer's voice.
I don't have one of those.
Do it.
I just have a
Just
sexy
do
radio
now.
mic.
Just speak
Okay.
words.
Words. All right. So we have a DeviantArt, which is Cutie Art Crusaders at deviantart.com. We have a Facebook. We are Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook. We are Twitter, which is at Cutie Art Crusade. We got a Tumblr, which is cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com. We have an email address you can send stuff to us at, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. And we're on Picado. Google us or click the link underneath the video to get that because it's silly. I think that's everything.
YouTube.
YouTube.com/cutieartcrusaders.
Where you're
Oh, you-
watching us
yeah,
right now,
yeah,
probably.
Like the most important one.
Like and subscribe. We love you.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
So yeah, that is everything for this episode, guys. Unless anybody else, I'm gonna open it up now to people in case that they want to, I don't know, maybe interject with something that they've been holding back on this
I
entire
have something.
episode. So now's the time, guys.
Oh, Naz has something? Go on.
Dust shine
Go
transition.
ahead, Naz.
Darn it! What? No. Wait a second. Burn's not editing this week, so we can put that in.
Yeah, we
I've
can.
been holding that back the whole
Literally
episode. I was like, will you guys
sad.
never have me on again if I just do like 10 dust shine transitions?
Are you kidding me? I'm gonna have you on twice as much now. I love it.
So you realize
But
what
it
I'm
means
going
you
to
have
put
to
in like
You have to
5
edit every time
different
then.
transitions.
It's true.
I already hate you.
Just give me the video. I'll
The only one who hates it is Burn,
yeah.
I love it so much.
I won't have it. I won't have it.
and that's because he hates
Yeah.
fun. So
So Burned, every time you're talking in this episode, I'll have a little clip of the dust sign transition.
just a little bobbing dusk head, like,
We should all,
sensually
we
massaging.
should all
his
pool
head.
our money together and get like a burn transition, but done in like the exact same animation.
Oh my goodness.
No, because then he'll start
Yeah.
loving it, and it'll feed more. It's just it sounds like a great idea, but it's really not. Like it's really not a good idea.
Yeah.
we need to get Burned at least hating one of
Yeah.
the memes. Besides, no, that's not true because we've got the cage too that we don't bring up. So I mean,
I hate
Yeah,
most of
that kinda
those
died.
memes.
it's true.
I
It's
hate
true.
you.
But that's your thing, Burned. You're the
Hate
meme
you.
hater.
Hate you all. Suck.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Honestly, that's the best contribution we've ever had at the end of an episode. So
Yeah, it's true.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, Ted, take notes. So,
Wow.
If you want a replacement,
Anyways,
I
that is-
can arrange something.
wow. Whoa. Wow. Well,
I don't know if I can deal with
we
having
will
another
be in
Australian.
touch.
Yeah, Joel is our token
There's
Australian. We
only
can't have
room
two.
for one Australian on the show.
I'm not sure we'd even notice the difference if you just switched it out. The accent confuses us
We'll
so
just put
much.
like a filter on my voice, so I have a really sexy man voice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You got to just
Yeah.
deepen it so you
Can you
sound
do a
like
sexy
Kazan
man
Day.
for us?
See-
Sexy man voice for us real quick?
What can I say?
No,
Dusk shine transition.
I have the highest voice, so this is going to sound terrible. Dust shine
That's
transition.
the point.
That was a good
see,
effort.
here's the thing, right?
That in post.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Your voice now sounds like Joel's voice did before he got his new mic.
Yeah, true.
So it would totally work.
Yeah, before you join us on the show again, you'll have to get a new mic.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
We have quality standards here.
I think that's a little bit extreme, but okay.
I mean, well, I'm putting arsenic in there, plushie.
All right.
I'm joking,
Just
I'm joking.
one final congratulations to Joel for hitting puberty, apparently.
I need a plushie
We-
with catnip
we
in it to distract my cat.
Yeah.
We need... No, your cat would
Or
destroy the
arsenic
pussy.
in it.
You fool.
Make it out of, I don't know, leather.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna have to wrap up here. So thanks again one more time for coming on the show. It was a pleasure to have you, and we'll have to have you on again soon. Awesome. Well, that is everything, folks. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. I don't know why I stopped. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Burned.
I'm Flutterguy317.
My name is Atmospark, and I'm Nazegoreng.
And we'll see you guys next week.